Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Stoney.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
So how's your week so far?
Oh, my week was great.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there was 4 Mondays in this week.
Oh, no.
I actually ran a 10K.
Okay.
I did it Sunday morning, actually.
Just casual, just,
It was it was an organized race event at LSU. And did pretty good.
Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard of this, and this is what I wanted to start the show off with. It's the holiday season.
Yes, it is.
Of 2022. There is a movie that just came out called Violent Night, and it is starring David Harbour, which if you've watched Stranger Things, he plays the sheriff Hopper. Really great actor. Mm-hmm. He has such a he's such a unique guy all around. He just has that kind of like dad quality, I feel like, about him. I don't know. Anyways, I love him as an actor, and so far of the few things that I've seen him in, I have just been really impressed with it.
Okay.
So I saw he was playing Santa Claus in this movie called Violent Night, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody that hasn't watched it. But if you were a sucker for like a little cheesy but still still funny action movie that is holiday themed, and it has it's just fun and exhilarating and kind of emotional, and you're looking for an interesting story, I definitely would recommend going to go watch Violent Night while you can. It's a good movie.
Is that in the theaters now?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
It came out, I think, 4 days ago, I think. Okay. So it is very recent. So for anyone out there, like I just recently watched it. And
this is a Christmas theme.
It's a Christmas themed action movie. It's kind of how I would.
Well, so was Bad Santa with Billy Bob Thornton, and that kind of went a bad direction.
Right. Well, this one, I think it takes itself seriously where it needs to, but then it also knows when to throw it. Like, it knows that it's a awesome goofy action movie.
Okay.
But it's like I said, it's funny and it's fun, and it's actually, like I said, I went into it like hoping it was going to be a good movie because the trailer looked kind of interesting and looked funny and kind of interesting and like an action movie. And I was pleasantly surprised when I left. Right. I was like, this was better than I was hoping it was going to be. So anyways, I just want to throw that out there. That's what happened. That's the big thing that happened for me this week, that we went there, saw that movie, and it was really great. So
I have to tell Miranda about that. Maybe we can watch it.
So
we're on a date night.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what last night was. We grabbed dinner, and then Mallory and I went to the movies to go watch it.
Okay.
So
I still like, when it comes to Christmas, I still go back to the old cartoons that used to come out back in the 80s. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and
all the classics.
Santa Claus, Charlie Brown. I mean, that's
right.
Good stuff.
To kind of
warms the heart.
To kind of tell you what direction it's in. Violent Night has Home Alone references in it.
Okay.
And so it's one of those kind of things where it's like it knows it's so funny, but it's fun, but it's a little more adult than Home Alone is.
Right. Yeah.
I always go back to the holidays, and I love A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who was
great.
that? Bing Crosby and was it Bob Hope? Was it Bob Hope?
I don't remember.
I think it was. They were in the Army, and they got out, and their old general fell on hard times, and they had to come back and help him out. I just love that story.
They don't make movies like that anymore.
Ooh, they do not.
I don't even know if the capacity is even there, and in the movie, TV,
no, it's a different beast entirely.
Make something like that.
But
anymore.
I like the old movies like that, and the Pink Panther.
Oh yeah,
Peter Sellers.
Pink Panther's great.
And, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. I love those, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't get that anymore. You just can't see that.
Christmas was different back then from what I've seen.
Sure. It wasn't as materialistic.
Oh, yeah.
Materialistic. It was about other things.
Yeah.
About family and getting together. And
how interesting.
Different times.
So what are we talking about today?
We have one of our listeners has written in and said that, hi Bree, and she said that she's got something on her heart, and she wanted us to talk about friends that have influenced our lives.
That's a big one.
Yeah,
that could be deep.
Yeah,
it could be.
That could take multiple podcasts.
Probably could.
Yeah, right.
As old as I am, I might have a couple of friends that have influenced me.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Man,
do people have, for the millennial generation, with the council culture so strong in the latter generations, what is it, millennial and Gen X? It's so easy to just write somebody off. Are we allowing for someone to truly come in and affect your life at your age now, or do we just write them off when they show a difference? And I know it may be different for you, Ian, but you kind of semi-represent the millennial generation on the show.
One thing that I've seen, people that I've met and worked with, like kids younger than me, one thing I've realized, like a kind of a running theme, is if you don't like all the same things I like, or if you don't believe the same way I believe, we can't be friends at all.
Right.
That's a tragedy.
What's the old expression?
That's an
they got an
indictment on our
expression now.
society.
Right.
I would rather 4 quarters than 100 pennies. But now in today's social media society, it seems like I want to have 100 people that really don't care about me just liking and,
we've all become mini celebrities.
Right.
Yeah.
In our own minds.
For me, friendship holds a lot more weight than that kind of mindset and mentality. For people that I've worked with that are more in my age range, a lot of times it feels like, what can I get out of it? Like
Sure.
I want to be friends with you for what I can get out of it for myself. For some people, a lot of, now again, in this day and age of my life, I don't have any of those people in my life anymore. I made sure to get rid of all those whenever I was in my early 20s. So a lot of the people that I hang around are people that, for me, it's really, if you got a good sense of humor and you're just like an honest person, I mean, we're probably going to get along. It's
right.
Regardless of what we believe in, as long as you're a good person and we can roll with the punches and have some jokes.
I try to keep people in my life that want the best for me and know that I want the best for them, and expand upon that. Not that what we can do for each other, but when I know you need something, I'm going to be there, and hopefully, vice versa. When I need something, you're going to be there. I have friends in my life that I've had over 30 years, and I'm talking true friends, not just acquaintances. I have many acquaintances. We were kind of talking about that in the pre-show there, but I have friends that I've good friends that I still hang out with. I spent Saturday in a cooking contest with 2 of them, and these are friends that I've had for more than 30 years, and they both have influenced my life just tremendously.
Yeah.
And we've always been there for each other. And there's not a question in my mind that if something happened to me, they wouldn't be there for my family. They would, whatever needed to happen, they would be there.
Yeah. For me, I have kind of 2 different categories, or I guess if you want to call it that. It's weird describing it in words, things that are just kind of going on in your head. I have like close friends or best friends, I guess, if you would say. And then I have friends. It's kind of the 2 different circles that I have. So I have people that I probably work with, that I would consider I'm on friendly terms with, that are more than just an acquaintance. We go through life together. People that I'm close with, friends of my parents, probably, friends of the family, that kind of stuff, where it's like, I do care about you. And I do feel like they care about me, but at the same time, if I'm in a hard spot, I probably won't call them. I have this other group, which is like my closer friends. And those are the people that come over to my house every 2 weeks. It's like people like you guys are in that same group of I see you on a regular basis. We also share our lives together in a big way. And those are more the people that I feel like I depend on when things like that are going on. Sure. And then there's one person that I have that's kind of like the friends you're talking about, Stoney, that you've been together for 30 years. My best friend, Ben, that I've talked about on the show before, he has been the guy that to put it in context, he and I used to go to children's church together once upon a time.
Sure.
And then as we kind of got into our teenage years, we kind of as we developed into our ourselves, we really bonded and connected over, shared trauma and just life and things going on. And we really built our friendship on that kind of stuff. And so he's the one guy, like you're saying, for your friends, that I know for a fact that because it has happened. I have been in some really bad spots, and I've
Right.
called him and been like, "Hey,
I need some help.
I need some help," and he's like, "I'm on the next plane over there." Yeah.
There. So we've been doing this for a little over a year and a half now, and some of the listeners have kind of known some of these names. So, Jason, how about you? What do you have going on? Do you have a group of friends that you can really count on? Or?
Well, I mean, I have the group of friends right now that what I call my running group friends that I've really have gotten close to in the last few years. We do a lot together. We travel together.
That's cool.
Because we go to races and stuff like that. But, I going back to my high school years when I go back to when I started playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I am still friends with many of those people today.
Mm-hmm.
And we still get together. We try to once a month. I mean, everybody's life kind of gets busy with kids and just life and all that. And so we try to keep those connections together. Very valuable friends I've had for many years, and I know I could call on them at any time I needed them.
Mm-hmm.
They would help me, and I would help them if they needed me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I find a lot of times friends can be what I call friends of convenience, not necessarily in a bad way.
Right,
it's just simply where life has taken you. That okay, I'm doing this now, and I meet these people that are associated with that event or that whatever you're doing.
A lot of
and
times,
so you become friends with them.
Like school and work kind of people. You may become friends with them, but like after you leave that school or job,
I'm not saying you can't maintain that. It's just, but it takes effort.
Right.
For the
and
most
sometimes
part.
Not everybody's willing to put in that effort, and it seems like sometimes if I don't call you, you're not calling me, then the friendship's going to kind of go to the wayside. That's right.
Friendship, what I call relationship. I mean, relationships take effort, and it really takes giving a part of yourself. And when you give a part of yourself, there's always a risk of getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know sometimes I have felt bad because of friends I haven't talked to in a long time. You always give the excuse, well, life is just busy and we got this going on. And, at the end of the day, that's really just an excuse. Mm-hmm. You're just not willing to put the effort in.
Right.
You're tired. I just want to go home and I just want to veg.
Yeah.
Let me call this person, see what's going on in their life.
Right. Well, I watch people. And I watch their actions. I just don't listen just to their words, but I watch their actions. And there's one friend that kind of comes to mind now because I've known him probably 4 years. He's not one of the 30-year friend type people, but his name is Laney, and I have his permission to mention his first name on the show. And his actions are what drew me to him. He was invited to my engagement party with Hottie Dr. Miranda, and there was some other people from my work there, and it was time. We had a wonderful dinner, and everybody was laughing and having a good time and just enjoying. A lot of these people were from so different walks of life,
mm-hmm.
and just sitting there watching the closest people to me, and there'll be another person that I have permission that I can mention his first name also, but they started going around the table to talk about the engagement. And it was like Stony this and Stony that and Stony this. And it gets around to Laney, and he says, I'm not going to talk about him anymore. I want to talk about her. I want to talk about Miranda and what I've watched happen in his life because of this woman here. And he got my forever loyalty right there. Because he brought her into the focus. He brought her into the forefront. And I was really proud to be her fiance, but I was equally proud to be his friend. And for somebody like that to call me friend. And so coming forward into it, he sat me down one time because he has kids, and talking about the impact that I'm going to have on Magnus's life.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to encourage me not to give up, but to continue to try and just be that constant in his life.
One thing that really, I was in my early 20s when this happened, and it was like that kind of this aha moment, as
mm-hmm.
they say, was I had a really close friend of mine had a son, and I worked with him. He was he's my music mentor,
Right.
actually. So like he had a son that was maybe 7 or 8 years old at the time. And I remember having this moment whenever I was away for something and he asked where I was because he missed hanging out with me and he missed helping me out with my stuff, my work that I was doing. And then apparently my mentor came back to me and said how positively he spoke about you and how much he missed hanging out with you. And then it sort of made me realize like he remembers me because I've influenced him in some way.
Right.
And I had that the moment that I'm talking about, this like revelation, was I remember things like I may have early memories, but I really remember being 7 years old. I remember it. I remember being 8 years old. I remember like those kind of years when I was doing karate. I was like, there's a whole lot of like things I remember like doing. And I started thinking about it and I was like, he's having that right now. So
right.
It's like there's things that I'm doing that like that I have the opportunity. Like it's not just like you can like, I mean like, obviously you can like say something to like a child that's younger than that and there may be a potential, but like at a certain age you're like they probably won't remember any of this maybe. But at that point I was like, he is things that I say to him, things that I encourage him in, or because he was also like he was interested in piano and like all these other I think potentially guitar or drums or something. So he was interested in music because of his dad and because of me. And I was like, I have these opportunities now where like I can potentially influence him in some way. And it's another one of those things I've talked about on the show before about things that you know, but you don't realize until you really think about it. And I really thought about it then. I was like, that he is remembering things now.
Right.
And it's crazy to think about that like, I don't know. I can have conversations that maybe one day he may remember. So anyways.
How about you? Who's influenced you?
Well, I've had a number of people to really influence me over the years. I mean, as I said, my group that I hung out with when we played Dungeons and Dragons was really my first. Prior to that, I dealt primarily with family, cousins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This was really the first group that really got together. You made a point to hang out together and do things together, and we live with them. You live with these people almost. It's they're every day.
You went to school with them, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you probably see them or your family.
You see them, you're going out, of course you get into those party years and you're in those ages and you're going out and hitting the bars and stuff like that. So I spent a tremendous amount of time, had great experience. I would not trade or change a thing of those years. But, it's just, Stoney, you mentioned about, friendship from our generational perspectives. And I've kind of thought about this as far as me being a Generation Xer. Our generation was very much the first to have to kind of go on your own. Many of our parents worked. Both parents worked.
Right.
It was the transition from mama being at home all day and daddy working to basically mom and dad both working. And you'd get home, and it was just you, or you stayed at your grandparents, and then from there you went back home.
But y'all are also one of the first generations to move further away from the home to the parents. Because in my generation, you moved maybe on the same street as your parents and your grandparents. And then you may have moved over one subdivision or something, but y'all started moving further away.
I would venture to say our generation, I think, started to spread their wings.
Y'all would leave the state. Y'all would go
leave.
To the other side of the country.
I think there were some people that were used to, okay, well, if I've got to go out alone, then I think making that jump to say I'm going to move out of state or I'm going to kind of go blaze my own trail, I think that played a part in also how friendships, because friendships became, you had to put effort into them, but I think a lot of us fell victim to kind of compartmentalizing our lives. And that, I think, really comes back to this idea that we were alone many times and we had to find ways to entertain ourselves. And And so that was a big transition. I really believe that, because I have older cousins, that would fit into the boomer category, and their perspective on this is completely different. It just is. We kind of really did our own thing. Unfortunately, I think we laid the groundwork for the following generation that really kind of took that to that nth degree further down the road, and I think in many ways became completely self-absorbed, and really kind of we kind of believe live more in an isolated community, so to speak.
Right.
So
for me, I was raised going to church a lot, so my community. I was mostly homeschooled. My mom homeschooled me, and at one point in time, 20 to 30 other kids, and it was a business that she was doing. It was a service. And so, I had friends that I was, quote unquote, going to school with, and then I would also go to church. So, my community was, in those two camps, really. Mm-hmm. So, as I've gotten older, and again, I think people in millennial generation, I think many people even in this day and age, just in both, in whatever generation you are, is it's kind of hard to make new friends in certain places, because I don't think people have a community that they go to, or if they do, it's online in some capacity. So it's it's not there's not a physical place that everyone goes to congregate together and discuss their week and things like that. So for me, I feel privileged in a way that it's almost I have a certain skill of going into a room of people and being able to talk and make friends with people. Whereas I know there's friends that I have that are I don't know how to make friends. Where do I go? What do I do? I don't, because again, there's also no real, everything's digital now. So it's it's hard to really make friends and get yourself out there when there's no one place where everyone comes together, except for, Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, back in my day, it was common that we had neighborhood football, neighborhood baseball. I played that as a kid. It was nothing. You get home from school, and that's what we did. So you interacted with people. You had to get outside.
Right.
Well, I remember sitting, and one of my very best friends is Dwayne, and his girlfriend Tina. I was sitting on their couch, and we were just kind of talking, and I was single, and I was just kind of I'm going to be single forever. This is never going to change.
There's always that one moment.
Change.
There's always that one moment
and
where
so
man, this is it.
Tina kind of got it in her head that she was going to fix me up with somebody.
Oh, the old fix up.
Here we
go.
So
we tried 2 or 3 that didn't work.
Okay.
And then.
What did you like about them? Just got a bad vibe?
Just bad vibes and just different. They weren't really me. I just knew what I wanted.
Right.
And then one day they said, okay, it's time to meet at this restaurant in such and such time. We're gonna try one more time.
Mm-hmm. There's been a handful of occasions for me where I've been on a date with somebody and I was like, I know you may not know this, but you're not gonna like me. I know this. I just know how it's gonna work out.
That final time was Hottie Doctor. It was
really
Miranda.
Wow.
And so I would say that they've influenced my life greatly,
right?
Because here 2 years and some change from the night I met her, and I knew I was going to marry her that night. We're married, and and
living happily ever after,
and enjoying things and getting our cigar bar, whiskey bar type living room going together. And Ian, you've seen that,
yeah.
It's just, so they've influenced my life. Mm-hmm. And when Dwayne's been there for 30 plus years, and all the ups and the downs, and, we might go a month sometimes without talking, but as soon as we pick up that phone, it's just like we talk every day. Yeah. It's not a problem.
That's crazy. There's been so many friends that have influenced me in different ways. Like just sitting here thinking about it,
put it out there.
And I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think.
What the show's about.
I'm trying to think through it. Well, what I'm saying, the point that I'm making.
I'm naming names.
Yes, because you've had time to really think about it. I haven't. So what I'm saying is like right now talking about it, I am like recounting previous memories of things where like I have pretty long hair, and I remember the first guy that was in a band that I thought was so cool, and he had long hair, and I hung out with him and met him and was just like, I want to be like that guy. And I started growing my hair out, and that was like when I was, I don't know, 14 or whatever. It's like things like that like I remember hanging out with him all the time because we went to school together, and he was a little bit older than I was, so I thought he was like, oh, he's cool because he's, a sophomore or whatever, like that kind of stuff. So, but I don't want to take this in a bad direction or like in a sad direction, but like
don't be
I
sad.
think it's no. What I'm saying is that I've had friends that have also influenced me in a different way that have made me realize. I had a friend. He this was many years back. I was friends with his sister more so than him. He committed suicide though, and it was so hard to be there for the family and to see all of what was going on, and like to have that, to be there for her. And to know that I also, like, I may not have known him very well, but, like, that doesn't mean that I didn't care about the guy at all. Right. So it's, like, that kind of thing, too, is, like, I feel like that whole family influenced me in a way of, like, realizing that, like, sometimes it's nice to just check in on people. Like, sure. Everyone, especially people in my generation, always like to say, like, no one reaches out to them. No one reaches out to them. No one wants to hang out with me. But it's, like, it is also just as much your responsibility to be like, hey, like to intentionally tell people, hey, I care about you. Hey, I love you. Hey, you are important to me in some way. And don't be ashamed of that. It's like if someone actually does mean something to you, it's like if they're a friend of yours and they actually do influence you in some way, it's just to tell them that. There should be any stigma against that. It's just to really be there for somebody through those hard times like that. Because I feel like that guy didn't have that.
Well, you remind me of what you're saying is remind me of a saying. What's the best drug for a human being? Okay. Another human being.
Oh yeah, I was going to say a compassion.
Relationship.
Another human being.
Yeah.
Relationship.
You're right.
It absolutely is. And I've had, in the last couple of years also, I've had a few friends pass.
Right.
I had one through suicide, one through the COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it is. And they both influenced me. One of them was my poker coach. And one of them was my gaming buddy.
Right,
We've talked about both of them on the show.
Right.
And they have influenced me, and they're missing that part of them that was always there. But that influence is still there, because when something good happens, I think about, I need to call Rob. Oh, crap, I can't call Rob.
Right. For me, the story that I told, it's hard to say that, but it is like having that moment in my life influenced me in a certain way to be more intentional about things like that. Is to know that like sometimes people don't always tell you what's up, just straight away.
And I feel that way from the surgery on. Because I could have passed, and how many people wouldn't have known exactly how I felt about them. So today, if it's on my mind, I'm going to say it. If I miss you, I'm going to tell you.
Right.
I love you, I'm going to tell you. Want to get together and hang out? Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. That's the whole reason why I started having like the hangout group every 2 weeks at my home. I also like hosting people at my house already. That's already just a thing I enjoy doing.
And very good at.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But
especially when it includes Jameson.
Yeah, right. But the whole reason why I started doing that was because a lot of my friends work shift work, so their 2 days are random throughout the week. But a lot of times they can request off like a certain day, and of course they can get scheduled ahead of time. Sure. So every other Friday, I have all my friends come out, and the whole reason why it started was because I started talking to my friends individually in the group. And I started hearing like a repeat offense of like, I just feel like no one really reaches out. I feel like no one reaches out, no one wants to hang out, or no one's free. So there's like everyone's trying to match up schedules, or they feel like no one's communicating to them, but they're also they're not communicating to me or to anybody else in the group. So it's like a both and kind of thing. But that's why I took the responsibility of being like, I care about all these people. We're all a friend group.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be intentional about us all coming together and sharing that. Because, again, we don't have a place to go. I know 2 or 3 of them through an old job I used to work at that I don't work at anymore. I know the other 2 or 3 of them from school once upon a time. One of them is my fiance that I see all the time. So it's like, and one of them is my brother. So it's like, so this whole eclectic group that has all became friends with each other, we don't have like a place. And I was like, if I need to step up to be the place to facilitate this, I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard from a lot of them that they really appreciate doing this, and it has made me feel better because I feel like it has also strengthened our friendship in so many ways.
Right.
We just recently, through my brother, he brought a friend over just to come hang out with us. His name's Dominic, and I've been enjoying hanging out with that guy so much. Mm-hmm. I've learned so much about him, and I've been able to and he's influenced me because again, he has a very similar personality type to me. So like just seeing him and how he works through things and how we're around the same age range. So to see like how he has also grown up and like done trials and errors in his own life. And I'm like, oh, well, it's almost like looking in a mirror in some way, like an alternate version of yourself in a funny, weird kind of way. It's like we were in very similar relationships growing up, like girlfriend situations we weren't super confident in, and he took this path and I took that path, and I was like, well, look where we are now. Uh-oh. So it's those kind of things where we're able to talk about those sort of things.
Do you believe that the people in our lives are there, that there's a reason that these people come into our lives at different times?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can give an example. If y'all
I've always found that pretty fascinating. I've always subscribed to the belief that people do, the universe aligns.
Yeah.
That this person comes into your life for a reason.
Absolutely.
I'll let Stoney go first, but I'll have something on that as well.
I believe that. I don't believe anything is happenstance. There are some people that are put into your lives to enhance your life, and there are some people that are put into your life to teach you a lesson. So there's good and bad. One of those is Chavez. I met him through work very briefly. And then one day we're at a community meeting, not together, but we wound up there together, and we saw each other in a different light and became famous friends from that day on. And I don't know what my life would be like without him.
Wow.
But I know this, it's a God thing, because we have a connection that if one of us is feeling down or sad or sick or overwhelmed, all of a sudden that text is going to fly. It's either going to be my direction to him or his direction to me.
We're all connected?
We're all connected. I do believe that.
There's a movie that y'all need to see that kind of really touches on that, but that's kind of outside the scope of this podcast. But
maybe you can guest host on Aftermath.
Right. Yeah, that'd be nice.
And that connection is there, and there's a few other people that are like that in my life. And once you make those connections for the good, and it's your responsibility to nurture them and not break them and not do something to hurt them, because if the stars align, or if you believe that, or if God puts somebody in your life, which is what I believe. I'm a person of faith, and I don't apologize for that on the podcast. That's up to me to make sure that continues to grow. But the great thing about it is he sees and feels the same way, that it's his responsibility to keep it growing and nurture too. And that's what's so fantastic about that connection.
That's really cool.
Well, that thinking about people that have impacted our lives, I think back, that group that I mentioned, my gaming group that evolved into a partying group, and we just kind of, just became very good friends. But they did something very special for me back before I was hired on my current job.
Okay.
They they had a party for me because I would be going into an extended training event, and I would be occupied for the next three to 4 months. And they purchased for me a handgun.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
They purchased for me a handgun.
Okay.
And they said, "This is yours. This is a gift from us for our years together. Take this with you as a symbol. And we don't want to see you back."
Oh, my.
So there were times during that really was hard.
Yeah.
And, I had lost my father a few years before. And so I was really lacking a father figure there, because he had been sick really 5 years really before that. So I was really diving off into something that I didn't know where I was going to go with this. And through that time, I was constantly think back on those guys.
Yeah.
And saying, get it done.
Yeah.
Get it done.
That's
Put your head down and do it. And I did it.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I think very fondly of, now so many years later. It's hard to believe that it's been that long.
That's an influence. That means these people have influenced your lives, especially if it carries that much weight still today. That's tremendous. That's amazing. I love that story. That's awesome.
To kind of go back, you were talking about people being in your lives in certain points in time and stuff, and is it all for a reason? It's like I don't have any story like Stoney, for instance, but the case in point with the guy.
You're still young.
Well,
that
you're right. You're right.
One day you might even think of one of us like that.
But you're right. But the point that I am making though is that the guy Dominic I'm talking about, he has lived within probably 15 minutes of me for my entire life. He's been in the same community. He's been in the same area. He even has attended similar churches to what I had attended in the past. So it's like, of all the people, there is a very high likelihood that I could have ran into him at the supermarket, never known about it. And it's like, but until now, now I've realized I never would have. If without this chance meeting, this gathering that we had, I would have probably never known this guy was here. And he and I have had very similar upbringings and very similar beliefs and things and stuff like that. And so it's just, and also just very similar. Like I said, we just think a lot alike. So a lot of the decision-making stuff and how we kind of overthink certain things and how we're kind of perfectionists in certain ways, it's funny to see so you again, we have had enough conversations now and hung out over the course of probably the past 5 or 6 months now. He can describe something, and of course I can kind of finish it off with oh yeah, you mean like this. And he's like, oh yeah, you exactly understand what I'm talking about with this feeling towards something or being stressed about work and this capacity, because I'm like, oh yeah, I know you probably think like this. And it's where have you been? So yeah, but anyway,
I like that. I don't mean
no, go ahead.
But that's something. How you said we may have done this together. My best friend, Miranda. That's one of the conversations that we've had over the couple of years. Is we've lived near each other 3 times.
Wow,
we could have been in the same.
Well, that's
place.
weird.
That is weird.
We were near each other in Chicago and Florida, and then obviously here in South Louisiana. How many times, and when we've had people that knew each other, the guy who married us, Rabbi Barry Weinstein, knew her for 10-something years and has known me for almost 18 years. And that connection just never got made. But now that it's made, now she's the biggest influence on my life as my best friend.
That's so
because
cool.
We see things. And how many times could we have been in the exact same place, like you just said about your friend Dominic?
Yeah.
We could have, even here in South Louisiana, we could have been sitting next to each other in the same restaurant or walking in the mall, not knowing each other, and we could have bumped into each other. But the stars had to align, or God had perfect timing. Because I used to ask her, "Where were you? Stuck in a tree? Did somebody finally shake you out of the tree so we could meet, or what?"
No, she was just following.
She was a part of that invisible mass of humanity out there that you're just lucky to.
Yes,
but
meet.
now that we met, she's the biggest influence on my life. Just to have that support, that connection with somebody. We can, like, you've seen our smoky bar room or cigar bar, and
I haven't seen this.
We're gonna have to invite you over to come check it out.
Yes, I need to see this.
That we can look at a piece and just turn around and look at each other, and we know whether we're getting it or not. It's just that connection. It's just so solid.
Right.
And she's the biggest influence on my life through the stroke and the surgery and everything. And all my friends have been there. So many people showed up for that. But to have her by my side and just to be my biggest supporter and fan, and it's just, that connection is unbelievable to me.
Right.
That's the biggest supporter.
All right, I'm gonna throw a little caveat out there.
Here we go. We like caveats on this show.
Right.
Can we offend somebody too?
Well, I don't. This is not to be offended, but do you know anyone that is a friend that is like the complete opposite, completely believes different from you religiously, politically, that you're on the complete opposite spectrum, that you can still consider good friends,
yes,
and still interact with?
Yes.
Not currently today.
See, that's the millennial thought
process.
No. And mine
I have those.
No. Mine was because I lived in Canada with him. So before you start saying things, I lived in Canada with him, and I worked at Starbucks with him, and he was a really good friend of mine. His name was Jay, and he was Muslim. And like he and I had very different belief systems on a lot of things, but he was also, we were both like-minded in how we treated people and how we were kind towards people and how we tried to deliver a good cup of coffee to people in a lot of ways. And I trained him in how to like work at Starbucks, and he was just a kind and sweet guy that was trying to like bust his ass to get his family here from India and stuff like that. And I was like, I mean, he was just a good guy, and he invited me over to, I'm not sure what holiday it was, I don't quite remember, but it was around the holiday season. It was snowing outside. He invited me over with because his family was able to come over with his daughter, and it was just this really wonderful experience to like have. They shared treats, which was like that was like their thing. Is like they
and this you said this was Islamic or what you said Muslim?
I think it was Muslim.
Okay.
And so he we had this. They cooked dinner for all of us, and he invited me into his home, and it was just this wonderful experience that I had with him, and I really miss not being able to see him. Because whenever I moved away back here, he obviously moved, I think, into the inner city. In Canada to get a better job to support his family, but that was the one person I remember going into this. I was like, I can be friends with anybody really, as long as you're not as long as you're not an asshole. Fine.
Yes, I agree.
So I was like, I mean, and that was the thing is like he was super kind and he was willing to learn, and he was like, I'm just here to work to support my family, and I was like, I can get behind that. That's totally commendable. And then of course we really kicked it off, and he was super nice and kind to me, and I wanted to return that as well. And I said, because we're not friends or I don't keep in touch with them, it's not because of any kind of falling out. It was just because I moved away and I'm so far away. So
I try to remind everybody, don't be an asshole to me, because I'm going to be an asshole back, and I'm much better at it than you are. That's Miranda. That was one of the funny things when we first started dating. Somebody brought up the conversation of pros and cons of dating somebody.
Yes, I remember this.
I asked Miranda, I says, what are the pros and cons of dating me? And she said, well, you have some. And I said, well, great. What's the con? And she said, you're an asshole. And I said, okay, then what's the pro? She said, you're my asshole. So I love that. That's the connection that I'm talking about, because we can make fun about anything.
The one thing that I've looked for in friends as well is because one thing that I've realized as well about people in my age range is friends that are kind of like yes men, friends that kind of just want to keep telling you you're perfect and you're good. But one thing, as I started growing up, and my friend group started to grow or change in its own way, and you have to make those hard decisions where, am I going to stick it out with this person? Am I going to try and keep being this person's friend because I've known them for forever, or because we have because we've been in the same circles for so long, or all the different excuses you may have, or do you cut them off because they're not good for you in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and
Not good fruit.
Right, and that's the thing is that sometimes you have to be honest with yourself,
Right.
and tell yourself that. But that's the point that I'm getting at is like I appreciate having friends that aren't like hype people that are gonna like tell me the way it is. They're like, gonna like look at me and like so a prime example of this that happened very recently is the transition from my previous job to my current job. Is I had this was a big decision because again I was leaving the previous job that I was at. It wasn't like it was a bad job at all. It just wasn't the atmosphere I was looking for anymore. But how to do that in a professional way. But I wasn't quite sure if I was dead set on the new decision. So I did what I always do, and I asked like my mom, and I asked my fiance, and I asked other friends of mine just to kind of get we're getting there, and to ask these people in my life that just to get different opinions on the matter, so that way I'm getting a consensus of opinion here to know if am I the one doing something dumb and irrational, or am I going to make a bad decision? I remember sitting right here in the studio before. It was one of our like pre-cast times where we're talking about it, and I was just kind of venting about my thought process on it. And I will never forget what Stoney said to me, because it hit the nail so hard on the head that I was like, man, I really needed someone to just say that out loud to me. Was I sat here and was like, I don't know what I want to do. And he looked at me and said, you know what you want to do. You just don't know how you're going to do it yet. And I was like, shit. Because that's exactly right. I was like, and that is exactly right. Because I was like, I know that I wanted to move into this new position because I knew it was going to be a better place, but I just didn't know how to get about it. And I wasn't honest with myself about
Honesty could be a real sharp dagger.
You're right.
Does that mean two things? Does that mean number one, I'm a friend, and number two, I've influenced
you?
All
Exactly. Yeah.
right,
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, and that's the thing is like that whole story is to say like I appreciate people like that we can be friends, we can be like-minded, we can be different, but at the end of the day, if I'm like, hey, I'm going through something, and if you're able to look at me and go like, this is the way it is. Because sometimes I don't, you don't always need that. Sometimes it is nice to have people that are going to encourage you. But I have my fiance, my mom for that kind of stuff, and they encourage me in a different way. But when I'm talking to Stoney here, I was like, I really need someone who knows my circumstance and to really kind of tell me like it is. And when he did, I was like, man, that is true. That is very much the feeling that I'm embodying right now.
Stoney, I have to appreciate our friendship.
Oh,
I mean, we met and you convinced me and talked to me about the podcast, and in some ways you've influenced me to kind of go in this direction. I never thought I would be sitting here
and
doing
I thought,
this.
Yeah,
how fantastic you would be at it. I even came to Ian and I said, I got somebody. We may have to go in a little bit slightly different direction a little bit than what we are, but I said this would be a fantastic person to represent the X generation.
Right.
And that's kind of how I see things. We talked about connections and things like that. I have to look at people because I'm very open. I'm coming from the generation that I do, the boomer generation. We don't cut things off. We believe you fix it if it's broken. You don't dispose of it.
Right.
And so when I look at people, I look at them in a light of, I want to really say a checklist, but it's kind of a checklist. If I want, I know there's going to be thousands of acquaintances that I make in my life. And I know that. I accept that. But what I call friendship is really different. And so when I meet somebody like you, Jason, and obviously I've known you since, forever,
right.
Ian, I look at things in a different light. One, do we have the ability to be honest with each other? And are we going to continue to be honest with each other? And that's the first one. The second one is do I want to keep this person around to where we're married, we have our wives, and we're going to sit on the porch smoking a cigar and an adult beverage and look at our grandkids playing in the yard? Is this person qualified, or are they going to be able to do that with me? And then the third and final thing that I'll look at in that person is when the zombie apocalypse happens, do I keep them with me, or do I have to shoot them in the face?
Do I have faith?
Are they going to be a hindrance or a help?
I just hope everybody's equipped for that, because it's coming.
Yeah,
so,
one of these days.
And that's really, and so when you allow those things into your life and you allow somebody to generate that trust and that influence in your life, you don't want it to be short term. If you allow somebody, you want that to be long term. Why do something short term? In the millennial generation, especially in the Gen Z, everything is so temporary.
Oh, it's so fast.
Oh yeah, Gen Z is a lot different from like Gen Y.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's
that's just major differences.
Why do things so temporary? I remember back when your grandparents had a console TV. That was an heirloom. They were going to hand this down through the years.
Mm-hmm.
You get a broke TV now, you throw it by the road, and what you do is you have to cut the box up because you don't want anybody knowing you got a brand new TV, or they're going to break into your house now.
We have a disposable society.
It's very disposable society.
We do.
And I just don't get that. Even with friends, I don't believe. Now, if I want to keep you at the acquaintance level, I'm going to do that. But if I bring you up into the friend category, that means I'm telling you I want this to go forever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this to stop. And I trust you. I'm going to allow you to trust me. And I'm going to do what I believe God has put me on this planet to do. And that's encourage the people around me, lift them up. And the only people that I look down on are the ones who need a hand up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I believe. And sometimes that's your friends and sometimes that's not. So that's why I allow people in my life to influence me. And I hope that I can influence them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's awesome. That really is, Tony. And I will say that about the boomers, and I do believe that relationships really, really mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it was the nature of the society in which you grew up in.
Right.
And it changes.
I remember, this is cornball, but I remember.
It changes, and it's
what
just.
What was his name? My mom and dad used the same butcher for 20 years.
Yeah.
They were so loyal to those relationships. I know that just kind of random and out of the squirrel.
Right.
But, you know, I just remember that. That popped into my head when you said that.
I think of the mailman. I mean, as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the same mailman day after day for years. You don't see that anymore.
Mm-mm.
The milkman.
Yeah, the milk.
We had milk delivered to the house.
That's
Right.
crazy.
It's just, I don't know where it's going, but I do believe the seeds of what we have today started with my generation. I do believe things became disposable. It became disposable in the workplace. It became disposable. You saw that with companies starting basically firing people with, next to retirement, and we got to do cost cutting, and boom, no loyalty whatsoever. Mm-mm. It was all at the expense of profits. And that now has just kind of matriculated down to where we're at today, where we've come so far from that it's just, that's just the way it is. And I think it's just affected every bit of our everyday life now.
Right.
Everything is disposable now. I mean, I hate to put it that way. It just is.
Well, I actually
Don't
started
want it to
writing
be
a
that
book
way,
about 25 years ago called Hitler's Revenge, about the Volkswagen Bug. He actually designed that car. Most people don't know that. And when World War II was over,
I think I saw something in the news about that.
when World War II was over, the Allies said, okay, well, Porsche and Volkswagen, you can't make any more military stuff, but look, we found these plans. Why don't y'all get together? And that car was the first disposable item in America. There was only 4 colors, I think. And if the fender...
Good car.
Yeah, it was a great car. The engine could be changed in an hour and a half. There was only 4 colors.
yeah.
If you didn't, the fender...
I've done it.
You pull the fender off and 5-bolt on another one.
You want to hear the most...
But it was... Hold on, let me finish.
Okay,
Let me finish. And then so before that, if you look in the timeline, nothing was disposable. And then in the 60s and the 70s, that became the most popular car. And everything became disposable since that time. And that's why I call it Hitler's Revenge, is because now what's disposable? Forks, TVs, children, marriages, everything now, diapers, everything now is disposable. And we've gotten, like you said, we've gone so far.
The
to
environment
the other side,
now is paying the price.
is paying a terrible price for that. Go ahead, Ian. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
no,
just
no,
wanted to
you're
finish
good.
that
No,
thought.
I was just saying that the most southern country thing you can probably hear is that my cousin and I, took apart a Volkswagen Bug and put it all back together in an afternoon. So
That's right.
that
But
we
it
did.
could be done.
We had
because
the-
that was
it was-
the first true disposable
Right,
item in
right.
America.
I
was just-
remember those cars kind of like it was yesterday.
Mhm.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like was it didn't have any AC in it. I was like, that's the only thing but it's understandable though.
Yeah.
Talk about something from.
Yeah, you say that when you mention the Volkswagen. The reason I say I heard that in the news because I saw something that, and I digress saying this, but I saw that Alyssa Milano was dropping her Tesla because of with Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter.
And bought a
She
Volkswagen.
bought a Volkswagen, and I think Musk tweeted, well, you bought Hitler's car or
Right.
something like that. It was some crazy thing. I was like, man, the society's really going crazy.
Man, it's crazy. Yeah,
All righty then.
that's
I mean, I found that absolutely hilarious,
Right.
and it's like,
No, I
really,
agree.
come on,
yeah,
whatever.
it's a
But that's part of it. Everything is so disposable. Instead of enjoying the car she had for some stupid, flippant reason,
Right.
I'm just going to get rid of my car.
yeah.
Really? If you believe in it, believe in it. Believe in your product. Believe in why you're doing something. Not everything is going to be perfect.
These boots that I'm wearing, Mallory got me for my birthday, I think like 2 years ago, and I've worn them so much. I've worn them every day, and they're just my favorite boots. Because again, I have bought like cheaper boots before that have kind of fallen apart, and it's usually more expensive to fix them than it is to just buy new ones a lot of times. But she actually like this is a company that makes really really nice boots with good like quality materials, and I've put them to their paces, and the toe, like the sole was kind of coming undone from the thread, and this is the first set of boots that I have liked enough, and that they're broken in and they're nice and they're worn and but everything else is still good and well constructed on them. Then I just went to a shoe repair place, like a cobbler, and had them all stitched up, and he did it, polished it, shoe shined it, everything was all good. I was like, this is probably the first pair of boots I've really like taken care of like that, because again, they're made to not.
See, there may be hope for the world after all.
Yeah,
Right.
Millennial.
Again, like I said, you gotta
I
watch.
used to bring my shoes to get repaired a lot.
Right.
And I haven't done it. I mean, I stopped doing it years ago.
I-
I used to have Johnson
Two things
and Murphy's.
that are so hard to find now: a good cobbler and a TV repairman.
Yeah. Hey, call
Think
Dominic.
about it.
Call Dominic. He can fix anything. That's
Oh,
his.
that's-
That's
okay.
his. He is a lawn care guy, and he's a tinkerer. He's like,
Okay.
I can fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing about,
old
like,
blender's broken.
I mean-
he fixed a microwave just now. He fixed an old radio, and I was like, I don't know how you did it. He's like, to be honest, I'm just going as I go. And I was like,
electronics though are now so cheap. It's
Yeah,
it's
you're
like
right.
they've made it where it's not worth it getting
Yeah.
it fixed.
There was a point in time whenever ink was so expensive for some printers, some cheaper printers, that like the toner cartridge was almost as much as just buying a new printer. So there was a point in time with like an old cheap printer that I had that it was almost more cost effective to just go buy another printer and throw the old one out.
Oh wow!
And I was like that. I mean, I don't think it's that way anymore, but it was like that for a hot minute in time. The only thing I was saying was I like this brand enough that I got dress shoes, and the dress shoes are so nice. I love them, so I'm going to try and take care of those as well. So I don't know. I wish there was more
I have a pair
things
of
like
dress
that.
shoes that I love, and I'm going to say it on the air. They're called Florsheim's.
Mm-hmm.
They are so comfortable. They look so good. They are so comfortable, and I will repair those as long as I possibly can, because those are some comfortable shoes.
That's cool.
And that was a gift from my wife,
Mm-hmm.
and see, she's even influenced
There you go.
my
She's
shoes.
influenced your
Yeah, yeah.
shoes.
That's right.
I see how it is.
She picked on me the other day and said, I have a Amelia Marcus collection started over here. And I'm like,
I've
oh,
got to
wow.
get rid of a bunch of shoes. I think I'm going to start cleaning out my closets.
Yeah.
It's time to go to Goodwill or something like that.
Right. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I did that with clothes recently. There's a lot of stuff in the back of the closet I didn't think about. I started like looking like, for me, I get in those moments we're at the end of the show now, so I don't feel so bad like really deviating off here.
Squirrel.
Yeah. So for me, like once I start to clean something, or I really get in the routine or I get in the zone of like tidying something up or disassembling something, once the ball starts rolling, it just will snowball for me. So I was doing that before. I was cleaning up the closet, was doing some laundry, was like moving and organizing some things, and I started looking around, and I like looked at the back of the closet, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is all this nonsense? And I just started putting stuff in a trash bag, and I was like, I'll donate this later. So.
All right.
Oh, this was fun.
Yeah.
This is a good episode.
Good
I like
episode. This was a great one. I hope that
it's nice to pay homage to some of the people that have influenced our life.
Of course.
And I like that. That was really good.
Who was the person that requested this again?
Brianna.
Thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate that.
I hope you enjoyed the show, Brianna.
Yes.
Thank you once again.
I hope this one really hit the spot for you.
Yeah, let us know if there's anything else.
Exactly.
That's
at
right.
Facebook.com/retrospectpod, and you can send us any kind of requests that way, or you can also go to Linktree/retrospectpod as well, and you should be able to find all the links to listen to our show or other ways to get in contact with us. But anyways, until next time, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Peace.